speak. The normal process on any agenda item is for the chairperson to read the item from the agenda. The board is given an opportunity to comment on the issue and or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented, at which time the public may participate, and a roll call vote will follow. First item on the agenda is the approval or amendment of the agenda that has been presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we approve the agenda as printed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Have a roll call, please.
Patton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ravenbauer.
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 2. This is always one of the pleasant parts of our meetings, I guess, and that's honoring the people that have served the county extensive years. We've got our sheriff's office represented today, and they are Rita Barnes, excuse me, who has served the county for 15 years. Kibby Collins, Sheriff's Office, served the county for 15 years, and Tanya Tinius, that has served the county for 10 years. And if you guys would come up, I'd like to give you a certificate. And let's see, sure I got it. And I don't know, we'll have our IT director take a picture of this. He's got in his camera. And read out this for you. This is for you. And, you know, you guys have spent 25 years between the two of you. It's an honor that you serve in that capacity. What's been the most interesting parts about your work? I was going to say, as a jailer, you guys get right in the action, don't you?
Yes, we do. See how the drugs take over their bodies and just how it does weird things to people.
Well, you've given us security up here this morning, and we do appreciate that. And we do appreciate your years of service, 15 and 10 respectively, and we want to thank you guys very much for your service to the county and to the community.
Thanks.
We can get a picture here today. What is this, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Our timing isn't very good this morning, Bill. We're out of clock.
I know it. Gee, Minnie.
Quite an honor to be serving that many years, and it's just neat to be able to, that we can honor you in that way. All right, moving on to our agenda items, the approval of the minutes from regular session of February 23, 2016. Item 4, annual manure management plan update. Prestige Farms of Iowa, LLC, ID number 67105, PI-349, the finisher. Manure management plan update received and placed on file. 4-year complete plan update. Item 5, approve the mobile band shell rental agreement with the Marshalltown Central Business District. They have submitted a completed rental agreement for the mobile band shell to be placed downtown Marshalltown from Saturday, July 16, 2016 through Sunday, July 17th for a downtown street dance. Item 6, file Clerk of District Court report on 216. This is general supplemental fund 10% surcharge for a total of $881.11. And item 7, approve the claims as audited and authorize the county auditor and recorder to issue payment of same. The listing of claims paid at this meeting will be included with all claims paid for the month of March. The March list of claims will be part of the first meeting in April. I would entertain a motion on our consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes. All right, moving on to the number 8, the approved personnel actions. This is a hire of Trevor Long in the secondary road departments, technician, temporary, part-time as needed. Rate of pay $16.50 an hour, effective March 9th, 2016. Paul, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
I can give you a little more.
If you would, yeah.
We haven't had summer help in the office every year that I've been around, but we have occasionally seen years where a couple extra hands have definitely helped. And I think that this summer and next summer are going to be two that we're going to need some extra assistance just from the side of inspector help in our office. And I also think that Trevor is someone who may be interested at some point in full-time employment in my office as an engineer technician. So it gives us kind of a chance to work with Trevor, and Trevor a chance to find out if it's something that he thinks he would really like.
Is he just coming out of college then? Or-
He's starting his career. He's got a couple of different things that he's got going on, and I've just in his resume there's some military background in there, and he seems like a really good guy,
You
and
say
it seems like
he's
he's a
gonna
quick
work in the
learner.
office. What's that gonna
It's just a matter of the first thing that we would have him work on this summer is I want to have him do a survey of our box culverts that we have out in the county. That most of our box culverts are small enough that they don't get inspected like bridges. They don't have to be there and in the program, so they don't get seen every 2 years. So we've got quite a few box culverts that, unless a landowner has told us anything about them, or we have had an occasion to go down and inspect them, we would not have necessarily seen the inside of these boxes. So I'm going to have him take our maps that we have that have our location of box culverts, and he's going to do a visual on them and see if we've got places where we really need to prioritize replacement and maintenance. And there's quite a few of these boxes, so I was going to have him go through township by township and look inside these boxes. We've had a few of them that, you know, you find them by seeing something out of shape in the road or a low spot in the road, and you figure out what's causing that. But we might be able to get ahead of some of them that actually haven't shown anything from the top side yet.
Is this one of the, like we do in the winter on our plow drivers, snow plow drivers? He'll work 4 months? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, it would be part-time. So if I start him in March, then I would only be able to use him through June.
June.
And depending on what construction is doing, if he's off for, I think it has to be off a month before he could come back. It would also just help on like bridge deck pours to have an extra hand with concrete testing when we're accepting ready mix concrete into the bridge.
So is he going to be working hand in hand with Dan then?
Yes, he's going to do a lot of Dan's job, and he'll also help when we're doing project surveys, and he'll get kind of get the idea of what the GPS survey equipment works like. And he's very good with computers, and I think he's going to pick up pretty quick on things.
And he's totally done with college?
Yes.
What was his degree in? Okay.
I don't even. It wasn't civil engineering,
Okay.
technician or anything. I'm not sure exactly what his degree was, but he's currently working as a house builder and remodeling, and so it's something where he can have time where he works, and there's flex time that he can come in and help us. And I've told him that, you know, if hired, there wouldn't be any guaranteed hours. It wouldn't be straight 40 hours a week for 4 months. It's going to be kind of come and go, and he's fine with that because he's still going to keep working his other job at this time too.
Okay. I can never help myself, but this next question is, you do have this within your budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Nope.
I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we hire Trevor Long, secondary road department technician, temporary, part-time, as needed, rate of pay $16.50 per hour, effective March 9, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to item number B, under the approve personnel actions, hire Zach Schlocky, Marshall County Conservation Board, temporary full-time seasonal rate of pay $10 an hour, effective March 9th, 2016. Mike Stegman is in the audience. Would you like to comment on Mr. Schlocky?
This is again to be a temporary hire for seasonal maintenance activities. The spring position is a little more entailed than the summer ones that we typically hire that are students enrolled in a environmental degree of some fashion. Zach is actually a recent graduate from Iowa State University with a degree in biology, and he's looking for full-time employment, but we had him on last fall to assist us with maintenance activities that we're just, you know, lax on and trying to catch up. And in particular, this spring, one of the prerequisites that the individuals who applied needed to have wildland fire training or certification, excuse me. Going into the spring, we do a lot of prairie grass burning, the fields that we have. And Zach is certified, so he's going to jump right in with our crews. And in fact, it'll be probably either later this week or early next. We'll start start doing some prescribed fire management.
Okay. And once again, we're temporary on this, so this is for a 4-month period?
Less than that, he'll be done in June.
Okay.
At the, maybe May, I'm not sure.
And
So
you've got
April-
these
April.
dollars to stay
Yeah.
within your existing budget?
Yep.
Okay.
I guess I got a question maybe for us, is the first one was a temporary part-time, and and this one's a temporary full-time. What is the,
Well, he's coming and going over here.
Right, I've got Zach in at 40 hours a
and
week.
you're gonna run,
He'll be a straight 40 hours a week until I use the allotted amount of time or until Zach needs to move on. He is an active guard member, so he informed me that it'll be middle of May. He'll need to have 3 weeks for
so
training there.
basically, no benefit, his part-timer isn't receiving benefits. Well, you're temporary,
No,
full-time,
No.
receive benefits?
none.
They would accrue vacation, but not health care, any other benefits.
So basically, you're still looking for 160 hours, basically, 4 months, right? No, that wouldn't be right.
No, it'll be more than that.
You're looking at 4 months, like, huh? Well, I know.
640 hours.
Yeah. So you're looking, okay.
Yep.
I entertain a motion. Can't even call for a roll call yet.
You tried, though.
Mr. Chairman, I'll motion that we hire Zach Schlocke, Marshall County Conservation Board, as temporary, full-time, seasonal, rate of pay $10 an hour, effective March 9th, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
I've got a motion to second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item number 9, the Marshall County Cost Allocation, Cost Advisory Services, Inc. report. The fiscal year 2015 cost allocation plan will result in a total reimbursement of $32,841 with indirect cost recoveries regarding the local Department of Human Services offices during fiscal year 2017. Comments? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we accept this report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just our continuing frustration that this is part of the DHS portion of our budget, that these are our state employees. They serve more than one county. I will never miss an opportunity to say I believe that that is unfair, that Marshall County shoulder the burden of this expense and its taxpayers when there are other counties that are receiving some of the goods from this. It's not a huge dollar amount. It's just something that I principally feel is wrong. I also feel that the state should dramatically increase its amount of reimbursement to us for our DHS costs.
And I think just to add, this is one of the mandates the state hands down to us. We've got no choice. We've got to take it. We've got to do it.
Yes.
And this is how we do it.
This is one of our, and I think both you and I share our frustration with this on an unfunded mandate situation.
All right. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Moving on to item number 10, Secondary Road Department Equipment Purchase Approval. Discussion and possible action on the purchase of a 2016 Chevy 2500D truck from Carl Chevrolet in Ankeny, Iowa. The purchase price is $29,665.36. This will be paid from the fiscal year 2016 equipment budget. Paul, I'll put you back under in the hot mic.
This is for the replacement of our maintenance superintendent's truck, and he's, because of all the miles that he does, he would, if I keep the same truck under him for too many years, he'll wear it out a long time before it rusts out. So we take his truck and put it into other services where they don't get as many miles, but we can still have a chassis and a body on that truck that's gonna last for quite a few years. So it's just a kind of a maintenance thing, because we can put a new vehicle under him and then put a lot of miles on it, then move it down the line. But the truck itself, they tend to be a little bit harder to find because we're looking for a long box with the double cab, and so that getting that configuration isn't something that you find on very many lots around here.
In moving this down the line, are we taking Jim's and putting his truck into one of the maintenance sheds, or is it gonna come back to the office?
Jim's is gonna also be up for replacement here, hopefully within this same budget year.
Okay,
to
so this is
Jim-
Brad's?
This is Brad Nichols, yeah.
Okay.
And Jim's truck, we're gonna move down to another place where we've got trucks that have, over 200,000 miles, and they're just starting to fall apart on us.
Okay, we're gonna move these two new ones and move their vehicles down. How about the two that we're moving down to? Are we having a couple that we're shoveling out the
Yeah,
door then?
there's one that's auction material, and one very likely is gonna be scrap material.
Okay.
They start to where the rust is to the place where they aren't really an auctionable vehicle.
And on your particular purchase, you've stated here that you're taking this out of your 2016 budget. Is this going to be a budgetary thing, or is this going to be a lease purchase?
This is just a straight purchase.
Straight purchase,
yes,
okay.
And once we get a total on what we have left, we're gonna be in the, right around the area of having equipment budget left to purchase one more pickup before the end of the fiscal, and then we'll deal with our next year.
And taking Dave's question, was this figured in this 2016 budget for equipment replacement?
It was, but we use pickups as kind of the fill-ins when we have space, because we don't know exactly what the cost on everything's gonna be so if we have a chance to move a pickup at the end of the fiscal year, that's when we like to get it done, because there's a gap there where there's not enough money to purchase anything that's heavy equipment.
Was this 2500D unit not found in the Marshalltown area?
They aren't on lots, they're not on lots commonly anywhere, and that's how I ended up talking with Carl on this one, is they did have one in their inventory. But the configuration of a long box with an extended or crew cab is almost impossible to find, because everybody's doing the short boxes, and we need the full storage in the back.
Did we do our due diligence with our local dealers in Marshall County first?
We did not on this unit, but we are on Jim's, and Jim is currently talking with local dealers to get a price on his truck.
Okay.
Jim isn't gonna be doing the long box and the extended cab, the whole configuration, but he's making an attempt to see what we can do locally.
Well, it's the old adage, shop local, the job you save could be your own.
The other thing is when we're at the end of our budget year and it gets close and we've got enough to spend for one truck, getting one that's on somebody's lot, we can have that and have it on the next meeting, and still get the money spent in that fiscal year that we're in.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the purchase of a 2016 Chevrolet 2500D truck from Carl Chevrolet of Ankeny. Purchase price $29,665.36.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
All right. Thank you,
No,
Paul.
thanks.
Item number 11, Central Iowa Recovery 28E Agreement. Discussion and possible action on the 28E agreement between Marshall County, Iowa, and Central Iowa Recovery.
Yeah, I'd like to, this is one of our mental health programs that we're involved in with a number of counties. And the actual treatment program of CIR has been very good. Been very, the people that we see and the people who have been through the program just sing praises about how it has helped them. So that part of the program, I've been encouraged, and that I'm glad that we're part of it. The part that we're concerned about is the management of the money part, and if we are involved in a 28E agreement with this, it could be that we're responsible for paying for decisions on the money management aspect that we can't control, and that could cost our county. Now, so then you ask, well, how are we, what happens if we are out of the 28E agreement then? And that will continue as far as the part where we're helping the various people from Marshall County. That will continue, because we will continue paying for that like we always have. The payment will be the same. The only thing that we won't be involved in if we get out of this 28E agreement is that we will not be on the board. We will not be responsible for this continuation of their money situation. And so that's why we're looking at this. And Jill's here. Jill, do you have some more things you would like to talk about? Jill works with this aspect every day also.
Jill Eaton, Community Services Director. I just wanted to say the service that we receive from Central Iowa Recovery is intensive psychiatric rehabilitation. And we do have a practitioner locally here that serves people. And the 2080 agreement was signed a few years ago with Marshall County and several other counties to get this program up and going. And it's actually served a very good purpose on that. And Supervisor Patton sits on that board now, and he's recommending, you know, whatever to you. But this is a Medicaid service. It's a great service. We want to continue to use that locally and have those services available locally. The decision to stay or not stay in the 2080 agreement is a supervisor's decision. It's just the 2080 agreement for Central Iowa Recovery. So the services are still going to be available regardless of your decision here. So.
That's, I'm sorry. That's what would be important to me, is if we do discontinue this 28 agreement, that the individuals that are receiving the services, we need to make it very well known, they will still get their services.
Central Iowa Recovery had to get the counties designated to serve those counties. They kind of keep that service per county. And so Central Iowa Recovery has Marshall County as for psych rehab, and that would continue. There's been a couple other counties that started in this 2080 agreement and are no longer, and they still have the service. They're still a designated county for that service with Central Iowa Recovery. So I feel confident that that would continue.
Yeah, I know Bill's been working on it, and I think we've talked about, you know, the whys. But if we're still going to be involved in it, but we're not going to have a 2080 agreement, basically we're out to, hate to say we're out to 25,000 that we put in it, but we're still going to be involved in it. But does this take the liability away from it?
We would not have a seat on the board, and we would not have decision-making for the business. It's no different than a lot of our other service agencies that we have that provide services to individuals with disabilities, that we fund fee-for-service for those services. And so that money that we did put in to start up, I think, you know, was used for startup. It was used for a lot of training. It was used for to get things up and going, and I think it was a good service.
Well, what happens, you know, if these counties do pull out, they don't get any more revenue coming in, how will they continue?
The counties aren't putting in revenue at this point. I mean, they're getting funded by Medicaid and by fee-for-service from some counties. We would continue to fund fee-for-service for an
nothing
individual
really
that
changed.
needed. You wouldn't have a seat on the board.
Yeah.
That's your biggest change right there.
Yeah.
So.
From what Bill has showed me on their financials, they are running not in a profitable situation, I would say. They're very rapidly running out of money. I think this would be, if we do get out of it, it's based on a prudent business decision, so that we've already put in our $25,000. That was a good investment. It got it up and running. It's not going to discontinue, but if we get out of this 2080 agreement and this entity continues to lose money, we're not on the hook for any more.
The liability end
We're
of it is
basically
scary.
stopping the bleeding.
Yeah, liability end of it is.
This isn't something that we're just decided.
No, this has been going on a long time.
I came back a year ago, February, and visited with you two guys about my concerns about their financial management at that time. And so we've been monitoring this. We've been trying to do our input into it. And we've gotten to the point where we have to be concerned about how this is going to affect, how it could affect our county's finances.
And I think it is fair to note that we are not the first county that has left this group.
That's true. That's true.
I believe we'll be the third.
Out of 10.
Yes,
Yeah.
if we leave.
Well,
Okay.
I would entertain a motion on what your choices are.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that Marshall County not sign the new 28E agreement that they sent us, and that we actually drop our membership from Central Iowa Recovery.
So you want to cancel it?
Yes.
I believe there's a 60-day notice, so you want to follow the 2080 and provide notice to that.
Yes.
And I, that being said, if we got to give a 60-day notice, why don't you make your motion effective today?
Okay.
So
I'm
that,
sorry.
your cancellation of your 2080 agreement effective today, so that we can give Central Iowa Recovery their 60-day notice, and we can get that out and in the mail today. If you'd reword that, so we got all our bases
You
covered.
got that put in there?
You need to say it, though.
Okay, okay. That is an atta girl. Well, shaking my head didn't count, okay.
No.
Okay. It needs to be in effect as of today, which would be March 8th, 2016.
And I guess I'm just gonna, so basically what we are doing is canceling the original 2080 agreement.
Yes. See, now,
And they presented a revised or a new 2080 agreement.
did you get that in the mail?
No, I haven't.
But we did not bring that before the board, so that is moot.
That's mute.
Okay, so that is no point.
Yes.
I know,
And-
I know we got one, I just,
Okay, and that one wouldn't count anyway.
No, that was when they were asking for more funding.
If we cancel the first one,
Yep.
so, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion.
I've got a motion and a second to cancel Central Iowa Recovery 2080 agreement. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
All right, motion carried to cancel. All right, moving on to item number 12. This is just one of my favorite topics, I think, that we come across every year, is a resolution 2016-0013, a Marshall County noxious weed control plan. And there's nobody that handles the noxious weed control plan any better than you, John.
We live for this, John.
This-
Let's
this
talk
is
about
our-
weeds.
This is my favorite day. It's like Christmas in March.
Did I tell you one of my first years here, some high school kids walked past my office and they saw the weed commissioner? And one of them said, "Hey, it's the weed dude."
Well,
Same as we had done in the past. We're going to do a blanket spray in the spring on the east half. And then in the fall, we'll do a spot spray on the west half of the county. This year, we're going to try something different, which will hopefully target the Queen Anne's lace a little more effectively. You'll notice most of the other weeds are fairly well controlled, but the Queen Anne's lace is just out of control. And I think Mike would agree with me, it's probably impossible to expect that we're actually going to control it, but we're going to give it our best shot. Because I know the state doesn't spray for Queen Anne's lace, so we have large pieces of right-of-way in our county that aren't going to get treated for this, but we're going to do that, and then, of course, the normal thistles and cocklebur and that kind of thing. And then we're also going to do a spot spray treatment on leafy spurge in affected areas.
And just real quick, would you cover what people have to do if they do not want their area sprayed?
You can come in and get a do not spray sign. You have to indicate on a map the area that you don't want sprayed, and the do not spray signs are $10 for a pair. You put one at each end of the area you want designated not to be sprayed. You can use your own, but we can't guarantee that the sprayers will recognize those. Our signs are a specific size and color, and they'll be looking primarily for those. So you know how it is. Sometimes you can look right at something and not see it, whereas if they have our signs up, they can be seen and will be caught. We will not ever spray in front of a home or a residence or any area of manicured lawn. So there are some areas that we just don't hit. But for the most part, if it's a rural area along a fence line of a field, that's where we're going to be doing most of the work.
Are we using the same company, John? that we-
Yes, B&W Control Specialists,
Out of?
Algona, and they're the best in-state provider of these kind of services. They're one of the few that have the equipment that can actually do it.
How-
Do we call them when you're ready for them to do it, or do they just kind of weather control?
It's a weather-based and it's a growth pattern-based. It gets to a point where once I start seeing things, I will call and say, hey, they're coming, although they've already begun usually in the southern tier counties. And as the warmer temperatures creep north and the growing season really kicks in, they know that it's time to come. And then in the fall, it'll be based again on not only the weather, but also sometimes a year or so ago, we canceled the fall spray because there was so much dust covering the plants on those gravel roads because of the drought that we felt it would have been completely ineffective to try to spray those in the fall, so we didn't do it. But usually, yeah, it's all pretty much weather-based and growth pattern-based.
And I know we covered this in your budget when we did it, but the pricing was fairly close to what it was previous years.
Yeah, right around 60,
Yeah.
60,000.
Well, I would entertain a motion on this exciting.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I motion that we adopt resolution number 2016-0013, which is the 2016 Marshall County Noxious Weed Control Plan.
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
Got a motion is second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, moving from noxious weeds to budget overview. Item number 13, the 2016-17 budget overview for Marshall County Board of Supervisors are presenting an overview of the 2016-17 Marshall County budget, and we've got it up on the screens. And a lot of work has went into this, and Dave Thompson, have at it, buddy.
Well, I'm certainly not going to take credit for this work on this budget presentation, nor the budget. James Nearing in our IT department has been indispensable in help collate and get this information together in an excellent presentation. I'm just going to narrate it. That being said, our entire budget throughout the county has been a team effort, not only of our department heads, but our elected officials. The diligence is not only given in entering into the budget, it's put together, but everybody also spends a great deal of time all year long watching our spending, and that needs to be, without doubt, pointed out, that we've got an excellent team and they've got everybody's best interest at heart. That being said, I apologize that we did not do this budget PowerPoint earlier, which would have, this kind of brings everything and coalesces it together about what our budget is, where the tax dollars go, where the exact revenues come from, where our exact spending goes. You know, what we put in the paper is the hard copy dollars. This is more of the detailed explanation of it. Marshall County, we've got a mission of effective, efficient, transparent, and fiscally responsible providing government services to the public. Like I said, our elected officials and our department heads and all our employees take great pride in delivering the services that we give to the public and doing it in an efficient and cost-effective manner. We do face several challenges, and we've got objectives in dealing with those. Some of the objectives that we've faced these last few years, and I know I keep repeating these all the time, but it's very frustrating, the economic factors that deal with our budget. Our valuations on properties have been extremely flat for a number of years, and that's where we get our revenues from to drive our budget. So we've had to be very creative. We've faced the challenges of the economic factors on flat valuations, decreasing fundings, sometimes from the state, not totally funding the unfunded mandates that they give us, or not totally funding some of the credits that fall on our tax statements, being the military credit, being the homestead credit, being some of the other rollback factors that had to do with the reformation of the commercial property tax credit. The state's been pretty good these last couple of years. Our crystal ball is somewhat cracked and maybe a little bit blurry, so we don't know where that's going to take us in succeeding years. You put those challenges onto the fact that we also have increased costs of running the local government and unfunded mandates, our budget is a challenge. We've had several objectives that we've tried to work with in meeting those challenges. We've tried to identify and aggressively pursue other forms of tax revenue. The wind farm is a very good example. This particular year, we had 2 more segments of the taxable valuation of the wind farms come on. We've also tried to minimize our costs wherever possible through debt reduction and consolidation of some of our departments. Getting back to our revenue, one of the big coups that we scored this year has been through our secondary roads department, and in conjunction with the city of Marshalltown, we acquired a $1 million grant that we will be using probably in the 2017 construction season for the replacement of some of the Center Street Bridge projects. That's a 4-bridge project. We hope to be able to do 2 of those in the 2017, and between 3 different funds, there should be very little to minimal effect at all on the property taxpayer. Those bridges will be replaced with bridge replacement funds, local option sales tax funds, farm-to-market funds, and the grant. So we've really worked very hard to stretch the available revenues that we've had without putting burden on the property taxpayer. We've continued to maintain our county facilities and our infrastructure, being our roads and our buildings. We've got a very aggressive 5-year capital improvement plan. We've done a lot in the last 5 years. We've got more to do. This next year coming up around the courthouse and other facilities, we'll be finishing up the tuck pointing at both the jail facility and the courthouse facility. We will be working on the elevators here at the courthouse and upgrading them to today's standards, which should have been done a little bit ago, but we're working on it. We're getting there. We're going to continue to assist with economic development efforts, not only with MEDIC, but any other way we can in our smaller communities. And all of the time, we've asked our department heads and our elected officials that whenever there's vacancies in their departments, if they can do some consolidation and shuffling around to the point where if we do have a vacancy and we've lost it through attrition and we get an opportunity to consolidate to go through cost savings at that time, and there's been a lot of that has happened. Starting out with our budget process, like I say, this is something that we literally work on year-round. The budget process basically starts with the departments developing their budget requests, a letter going out from the supervisors in mid to early November, letting them know where we want to be as far as our spending. That goes to our department heads and our elected officials. At that time, all the department heads and the elected officials put their respective budgets together. And when they start that process, they have the previous year's budget. Any changes to the previous year's budget, they're asked to do the next budget year and to do one more step, which is to look at the budget year that follows that. That gives us the ability to have a nice, good flow through, to not have some surprises that are coming down the road, and continue to work on the 5-year plan that we work on. After our department heads and elected officials get that budget done, they meet with each individual department, and elected official meets with the supervisors, and we refine and discuss those requests. Sometimes requests are made that just aren't totally granted because we try to stay within our budget, and sometimes we even add to it. You know, it's excellent communication, and what it does is it gets everybody on the same page and allows the supervisors to be intimately involved with every elected official and department heads in their budget, and it really creates an excellent information flow from both the supervisors to our elected officials and from our department heads and back across the table, and it lends itself to an excellent team project. After that, we create our final budget. We present the budget to the public, we adopt it, and then we implement it. The implementation finally takes place that we start our budget year, which starts July 1st and ends June 30th. You know, the county is the collector of all the taxes for all the different entities throughout the county, being the school system, the cities, the state, the assessor, the townships. We collect through the treasurer's office all the dollars. So sometimes we take a little bit of a beating for the taxes have gone up, but in this particular year, everybody has to understand the property taxes that are collected by the county go to a whole bunch of different areas. We start out with, it goes to the county. We have 5 different school districts throughout the county, 13 cities. We have a community college district, 16 townships, the assessor, and the ag extension. So your tax dollars really that come into the county go to a lot of different entities. I've taken one example this year of a property tax distribution. Because Marshalltown is our largest single community within the county, I've only done this for if you were a taxpayer in Marshalltown, what your property tax disbursement is going to look like. The school is going to take 43 cents of that dollar, or 43%. The city of Marshalltown is going to take 35 cents of that dollar, or 35%. The county is going to take 18 cents of that dollar. Area Education 6 is going to take 4 cents, and all other entities are going to take 3 cents. Those other entities, 1% of that 3% is the county assessor. You also have the ag extension on there, and you have a little bit that goes to the state, and a couple other very small examples. You've heard us talk about valuations many, many times. This year our valuations in Marshall County, they increased by $80 million. I wish I could sit here and say that that increase in valuation was because of a robust economy, but I wouldn't be able to do that with a straight face. Quite frankly, it's been just the opposite. Our valuations have been stuck for several years because of a very stagnant economy. Our increase in valuations this year of that $80 million came about primarily because of 2 different sectors coming on valuation increases on our wind farms, and the city of Marshalltown and the city of State Center releasing valuations from their TIF districts. When the cities release their valuations from the TIF districts, it allows all the taxing entities to assess that value of property, and it allows all the entities to be able to spread that burden of the tax payment to all of the taxable property, not just what's TIFed and what isn't TIFed. So on this particular chart, you'll see we had a residential increase in valuation of $7.2 million. For all the residential valuation within Marshall County, that is an extremely small number, and it's very concerning. Our ag values, once again, the same thing. All of the ag valuations throughout the entire county, between ag valuations and ag buildings, you had approximately $11.6 million valuation increase. That's very, very flat. One of the things we're going to be concerned with is those ag valuations in the future. Ag valuations are determined by a 5-year rolling average. That 5-year rolling average has 3 key leading indicators, one being your crop suitability, one being your price of your average price of land, and one being your commodity pricing. All 2 of those 3 key leading indicators have reduced the last 2 years. I think this board anticipates that we'll probably see reductions in 2 of those key leading indicators again in the 3rd year, which is going to cause next year our ag valuations to possibly decline. We don't know the total effect that's going to have on our budget, but I don't think it's going to be a good one. We'll have to see what the state does as far as the rollback on ag lands, and we'll go from there. If you'll notice on this slide, we did have a reduction in our commercial valuations. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the state has changed the commercial valuations. And if you look at it, you have multi-residential has increased, commercial has decreased. We've had a slight uptick in the industrial valuations. If we look at our utilities, our railroads and our utilities without gas and electric have dropped, railroads a slight uptick, and our utilities with gas and electric has increased primarily those valuation increases have come from the wind farm. Our next slide we're going to have is going to be our levy rates. 2 of the last 5 years that this particular board that sits in front of you has worked on your taxes and your budgets have seen declines in the levy rates. This year, our decline has come from four different areas. We've seen a decline in general basic of 6 cents, a decline in general supplemental of 22 cents. We have a decrease in our debt service levy of 2 cents, and one of our largest decreases is in mental health of a 32-cent reduction, leading to a total countywide levy reduction of 50 cents. I think it's important to note that that 32-cent reduction in the levy rate in mental health, that levy is set by the region. And if we go back just 4 short years, we were levying per capita in Marshall County $54 per individual for mental health. We were locked into that by the state of Iowa for a number of years. When the state of Iowa removed the cap on the levy, it was reduced to $47.28 the following year. The year after that, when we went into the region, we took all of our reserves that we had in mental health and we went into the region, and that levy was reduced to approximately 30, Jill help me out, 33.18. And this year, that levy rate for mental health in the region dropped from 33 down to 22.90. That is per capita. So you've seen a huge reduction in the mental health with us joining the region. There's been some state workings in there, some mental health workings in there. The region, I believe, is working out nicely for Marshall County, without doubt, and hopefully we'll see that continue to go. But the important part is your levy rate is reduced both in rural and in urban by 50 cents per thousand of your valuation. Let's step over to revenues. We had a net decrease in revenues because of property taxes of 3.1%. We actually had a decrease in the amount of spending for Marshall County by $371,768 in this year coming up. Penalties on interest and costs on taxes, there's essentially been no change. Intergovernmental, which is the money we get from other government entities that share in expenses. A good example of that is the city and the school system. If we do an election, they pay for that. That comes back to the county. There are other intergovernmental. There's been a slight decrease there. Licenses and permits are another portion of our revenue, a very small increase this year. If you go back the last few years, there's been some very large jumps in that, and those have been because of the licenses and the permits that were on the wind farms. But that will settle down. We don't see that license and permits changing. One of the things that really concerns me from our revenue is our use of money and property. And James, could you please bring up the screen on what I'm talking about on our decrease in our funding on revenue? This particular slide, and I know it's hard for people in the public to see it, but this goes back to approximately 2011, and this is a heck of a ski jump on the reduction of what we have taken in. This is the interest rate that Marshall County gets on its balances that are in cash reserves and our revenues on the county farm and other land that we rent. If we go back about 10 years, this has been a reduction of $800,000. If we go back to 2011, we've gone from approximately $570,000 down to $198,000 on an annual basis. This is no different than the folks sitting out there at home that have money in a certificate of deposit or a money market. You're not getting a rate of return on your funds, neither is the county, and it's not having a positive effect on our budget. There's some miscellaneous things in our budget. We have a decrease in some of our fundings and fixed assets of sales. We haven't really sold anything, but when you really look at this pie chart and you look at our revenues, you will see that only 50.3% of the money that we take in is assessed to the county property taxpayer proper. That has been very flat and within 0.1 to 0.2% for several years. So really only half of the dollars that we get for operating county expenses come from property taxes. Other revenues come from other sources. Some of those sources we've had increases this year has been the road tax revenue, the fuel surcharges. That's going to go directly into our roads. It's going to allow us to buy little equipment. It's allowing our county engineer to be extremely aggressive as far as changing out some bridges and box culverts and some improvements in our secondary road system. So that was a huge help to us. We go on to the next slide. We're going to get into expenditures. This kind of gives you a little bit of a pie chart as to exactly where our money goes that we take in. Our two largest portions of our budget are in roads and transportation. That's 27% of our budget. And when we get into public safety and our legal, that's 33.6% of our budget. I think it's important to make the comment that we have seen an increase in our public safety. It's a sign of the times we live in. The public safety not only includes the incarceration at the jail, our patrol division at the sheriff's department, our incarceration, our investigation, and it also includes all of our work in the attorney's office, plus our juvenile detention up in Eldora. The times we're in, it's going to be a continued challenge and increases in public safety. Our second largest portion is in our secondary roads. You get down to administration, what we pay to actually give the services basically given in the courthouse is very small, 12.8%. Again, government services to residents at 4.8%. Debt service is 3.14%. That has been declining and will continue to decline. This June we will have a debt payment of approximately $700,000. Next June another $700,000, and the following June, which will be the 2017-2018 budget, we will finish paying off our bonds, not only that were taken out for the county jail, but for work done here around the courthouse, and for all intents and purposes other than some short-term money for borrowing for vehicles. Our bonds will be paid off and will be in pretty good shape. So it's been a slow turn, but we've made some huge strides in our finances around here, and they're getting to be in pretty darn good shape. You look again on this pie chart, mental health and mental retardation and developmental disabilities is at 3.99% of our budget. That's a little bit of a misnomer because that is coming out of the region now, and we took a huge dollar amount into the region. It's showing that we're spending a decrease of 36% on mental health. That's just because of what is being levied against the taxpayers for Marshall County, and more to the levy increase that has, or decrease that has come from the region. Capital projects, we increased a little bit, about 12%. We're going to stay very flat on our capital projects and have for a number of years, so we're doing pretty good there. One of the things that came up at a Board of Supervisors meeting when we had our budget hearing was our carryover. And we had an individual that stated we had a 34% carryover. On paper, that is very true. But when you look at what makes up this carryover, it's very important to look at the dollar amount that's in it. A very large portion of that carryover is in what we call restricted spending. That restricted spending comes in several areas, and it's a lot of money that we don't have the ability to spend in our standard portion of our budget. This restricted spending, I want to get the numbers right here, so I'm going to have to cheat and get to it. The breakdown of our restricted spending is $543,000, is $5,434,000 of our carryover is restricted. James, could you bring up what that makes out of what is restricted, please? I'll give you some examples of the amount that's in that restricted spending. We have a conservation land acquisition trust fund. These are dollars that cannot be spent in the general fund. We have the Clownberg Prairie Trust Fund. We have the Solid Waste Irrevocable Trust. This is money that is held by Marshall County for the eventual closure of the Marshall County landfill. The Marshall County landfill is not owned by Marshall County. It is a commission. There's approximately $3 million in that for the closure of that landfill. You cannot include that in our carryover. We also have the County Health Insurance Fund, which at the end of 2016 was approximately $2.6 million. The county is self-insured in its health care. Those are reserves to pay out claims and to keep things going on an even basis. They cannot be used for anything other than our health care. So when you look at the portion of our carryover balance that is restricted, of that $10 million, you have to take out $5.43 million of it. We have assigned of $200,000. That's monies that are in our budget that even though it's a carryover, they are assigned to a particular item and cannot be used for our everyday cash flow. We have an unassigned portion of our budget of $2.6 million. That's the true amount of our carryover that we can use that keeps our cash flow going in between the times that people pay their property taxes. That's the number, and that particular number on our carryover is approximately 20%. Personally, I believe I would like to see that get up to approximately 25%, and I think the board would also concur with that that's something we have been working on slowly but surely. We're gonna hopefully get that up in the future, and we'll go from there. We've pretty much covered our carryovers, our revenues, our expenditures, where they're going, what we're collecting, and the rest of it. I'd just like to wrap up this short presentation by looking out into the future. We've got some challenges and some good things coming about being in 2018 with our debt freedom. That does not mean we're going to discontinue our spending. We will have the jail bonds going off. We will have the bonds that were taken out for improvements on our facilities here at the courthouse and the jail facility going off. But that proportion of our budget in debt service is 48 cents. When these bonds do go off, we can't stop levying that full 48 cents. What we would like to do is levy a portion of that on an annual basis to build up a capital fund so that when the county does need to do its projects, it has the money. It doesn't have to go out onto the market and borrow it. It will be able to do what everybody does in their own home. They save for projects. They do them when they can afford them. But if we can build a capital plan, a capital budget, a capital reserve strictly for our projects, it can eliminate our debt service. What that will allow the county to do is to give 100% bang for the tax dollar to the taxpayer. There will be no interest fees involved. There will be no fees involved in borrowing. There won't be any annual fees as far as the assignment of that debt. And it will give us the ability to have 100% return on investment for what we have and for our tax dollars. There's going to be some challenges that will come with that. The board and our other buildings and grounds and other departments are going to have to be more forward-thinking, look farther down the road into that 5-year plan. We're going to have to work more concerted with one another and develop that plan so that we can have that amount of capital budget levied for what we need to be doing in the future. If we can't afford to do it all in 1 year, we may have to wait and do it over a 2-year period. But we're going to, we're very rapidly approaching that. Some concerns that we have for our future, like I already stated, our ag valuation is a concern. It's yet to be seen, but it doesn't look wonderful. We'll have to wait and see, but when the valuations come out, we'll be able to attack our next budget. We always have a concern on the state funding, specifically on what the state is going to do on the revenue replacement for the commercial property tax credit rollbacks. That's going to come from the legislature. We also have a future concern on some of our health care and insurance and what our ramifications are going to be when the Affordable Care Act is totally enacted. Some of those things are up in the air. We've got a little less fear about it today than we had a year ago, but it's still an unknown, and those are some of the things that we're going to be faced with in the future. I don't have a whole lot more, but you guys can sure chime in.
Anybody got any questions? This has been an effort that David has really put into, and we all kind of submitted the information. He kind of recapped it, and James helped out a lot. So, very good presentation. It's very unfortunate that the press and the public is not here to hear this, because we're very proud of this budget, and we're very proud of how the employees are coming together on making this thing work. Proud of our department heads, which all we got in here is for an audience. But thank you guys for making this thing come together and making it work. We're even proud of Jill, so.
Of course we're proud of you.
We've got a good team. I can go right straight down the line on each and every department and say what they've done to improve the budgeting. We can start out right in this room. The auditor was appointed a little over a year ago, has done some reevaluations in her departments, has shuffled around a lot of the responsibilities, is operating much more efficiently than in the past. We look at the engineer. We've got additional dollars that are coming in from the road use tax. We've been very aggressive on buying some equipment, which has allowed our engineering and our secondary roads to install box culverts rather than bridges, which is allowing us to stretch our tax dollars a lot further. We can look right straight over here to Lucas in our Buildings and Grounds Department. We are operating today with less individuals in that Buildings and Grounds Department than there has in the past. We're still getting all the work done. It's running more efficiently. We can look right back to IT in James in the back corner. We have consolidated our IT and our GIS department, which has reduced brought us about some savings. We can look right over here to Jill. We've worked into joining the region with mental health. Jill is an absolute bulldog in looking at the amount of money that goes out and is spent in mental health. We can look right down to the county attorney's office and look at the forfeiture funds and the dollars that is being brought in by the county attorney. We can look at the treasurer's office and the consolidations that have been done there, the implementation of universal clerks, so when you come in as a taxpayer to do business in our treasurer's office, everybody there can handle each and every transaction. It's running much more efficiently. Something that's important to take home and to understand is all of these consolidations and all of these movements have been done through attrition, and nobody has lost any jobs. This has all been done when we've had the opportunity to consolidate these departments, and it's been done very well with a team approach. So it's not just the Board of Supervisors, it's our entire organization from top to bottom that deserves the pat on the back for this.
Are you done now?
I'm done now.
For a full version of this report, James and David will be making one that you can take home with you, right? No.
We're not selling CDs in the
We
lobby afterwards?
could, yeah. So,
Sure you'll sell tons.
we're still, my only thing I was going to say, we're still working on the Lucas thing. Okay, public forum. This is time set aside for public to make comments on topics of county business other than those listed on this agenda. No action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in the public forum. Anybody got any public forum stuff to say? Seeing none, hearing none. The next item is the adjournment. The next regular session is scheduled for March 22nd, 2016 at 9 a.m. All business to be acted upon at that session shall be submitted to the county attorney or county auditor and recorder's office or the Board of Supervisors office by Thursday, March 17th, 2016 at 1 p.m. There being no further business to come before the board, our meeting is adjourned at 10:05.